if I ran a political campaign, meaning if I put myself out there to run for office, I don't know if I do all that well, but if I did run, my mom would support me, my cousins would support me, my family would support me, unwavering support. They're your base to some degree. They're a safe space. They're the place where you go to for refuge. They're a place where you go to that at the very least, you're at home, right? That's the thought anyway. This is Richard Ojeda, just to give you an example of what I mean. I like Ojeda. I've mentioned him before. I want to show you what I mean so you can have a very specific example.
I would have never thought that spending so many years in combat zones where...
By the way, I could do that. Inside of this shirt is a man bustling with muscles and everything else. It's not. I can't do that.
On at least 5 occasions, I probably shouldn't have made it home from Iraq. That I would have returned home and almost lose my life on a creek bank.
2 people I didn't know came to my door on Mother's Day. And told me.
They had invited candidates from all over the area to come there to speak to people in the Whitman Creek area. And he asked me for some bumper stickers. That's where I walked over and I put the bumper sticker on the back of his vehicle and then went around to the front. At the same time, he reached into the vehicle and grabbed an object and then ran around and struck me in the back of the head. I honestly remember just closing my eyes, and it was like I was just going to lay down and fall asleep.
I went to the hospital not knowing what to expect. I wouldn't let my kids go to the hospital because I didn't know what to expect.
The anger that I could sense in my wife, I could feel it in her. The anger that my children had.
Even though Dad wasn't conscious, I would just sit there and talk to him because I knew probably he could hear me. It did not keep him from campaigning, no. I think it made him want to more. It made us want him to more. Because it made us think, okay, well now you really have to win.
I'm trying to fight for the people that work for a living. You know, look at these houses. These are not big houses, but make no mistake about it. Everybody that lives in these houses are hardworking people, and they deserve to be able to have a nice life. They deserve to be able to put smiles on their children's face during Christmas too. I'm not scared to stand up against the status quo. I'm not scared to stand up against other legislators when they say people need to learn to live within their means, but yet they have no concept of what life is like to a single parent that is trying to put food on the table for her child.
I like that. He calls himself a labor Democrat. I like that. I like that fire. I like that aggressiveness. I like that these people have no concept of what it means to try to put food on the table for their kids and live within their means. I love that. I love that. I love that. Key point here is his kids are there with him. His family is there with him. He has a support base. All there with him. There is no discontinuity there. There is no separation. There is no break. Everybody is on the same page. Compare that to a situation where the candidate's own kids called in and said, don't vote for our racist and homophobic dad. Please, whatever you do, don't vote for our racist and homophobic dad. Then that racist and homophobic dad calls the radio station and says, look, calls NBC News, look, I'm not racist or homophobic. Those kids are, there's a conflict with the mom and everything else. And then proceeds to say really vile stuff, despite him saying he's not racist, homophobic. So let's take a look at the story. The story is fucking hilarious. I don't know if you guys remember when the woman said, I am not a witch. She started a campaign off with, I am not a witch. because during that season, Republicans were saying some insane things. And they were just on the media saying insane, loony, off the top things. This guy is one of those. Let me show you what I mean. NBC News. Don't vote for our homophobic and racist dad, Missouri candidate kids tell voters. I can't imagine him being in any level of government, said the daughter of Steve West, a Republican vying for the Missouri House seat. Here's Steve West. Slightly creepy guy, looking guy, but a guy nonetheless. Well, most politicians, right here, his daughter, right here, I can't imagine vote for my dad. I can't imagine him being in any level of government, Steve West's daughter, Emily, told Kansas City Star. He's made multiple comments that are racist and homophobic and how he doesn't like the Jews. That always trips me out. Why do people say that? Like, the blacks, the Jews. Why are you adding the? He doesn't like Jews. They're thinking to themselves, you don't need to add the. Adding the, it's just a weird quirk. I always thought that's so bizarre. And when people say that. Let's keep going. Steve West's son, Andy, contacted the paper on Tuesday with a similar message about his fanatic father. He must be stopped, Andy West said. His ideology is pure hatred. Now, they grew up with him. They would know. In a 30-minute phone conversation with NBC News on Wednesday evening, Steve West rebutted the claims made by his children. I'm not anti-Semitic, he said. I have no racism at all. I'm not homophobic. West blamed his fraught relationship with his children on his ex-wife, who he said poisoned him during his extremely toxic divorce. However, there are comments that have been compiled for your benefit by the Star. Regarding the LGBTQ community, West has said homosexuality and pedophilia are absolutely linked, and he called women's athletics a haven and breeding ground for lesbianism. Oh God, what the hell? When asked about these comments by NBC News, West doubled down on his claims, recalling a story about a heterosexual woman who was banned in her college scholarship after being outnumbered by lesbians in a women's locker room. He also claimed that homosexuality and pedophilia are indeed go hand in hand. To him, this is not, bigotry at all. This is just reality. The homosexual world, there are a much greater percentage of predators, especially when it comes to boys, he said. When asked for evidence to back these claims, he said, look it up in the works of Milo Yiannopoulos. Yiannopoulos is a disgusting human being. I'm just saying, the idea that you're using him in and of itself is problematic. A conservative gay provocateur who was fired from Breitbart after a video was uncovered with him making sympathetic comments about child-adult sexual relationships. Man-boy love. That's the guy that he was using to back up his claims. The guy who was backing man-boy love. Among his comments targeting Jews, West claimed that St. Jude's Children's Hospital in New York is getting sick kids through vaccines. Getting kids sick through vaccines and torturing them with anti-cancer drugs, all for a little PR for the Jewish cabal, according to the Star. He also claims Republican Jews are grooming America just as pedophiles groom their victims. Wow. When asked about his comments about the Jews, West turned the conversation towards Israel, saying Israel is a racist state that seeks to divide everybody by race. Now, Israel is a racist state, but that's a separate and distinct thing from you talking about Jews. Israel is a country. Jews are a race or religion, depending on how you're talking about it. But at the very least, that is a separate and distinct thing from what you're saying. They've called themselves a Jewish state. And doing so, yes, by definition, they're a racist apartheid state. But that doesn't necessarily give any defense to the comments that you are making about Jews. That to some degree is almost an absolute. I hope that makes sense. There's a distinction between those things. One is a state. The other thing is a race or religion. You're castigating a large number of people here in massively insane loony theories or hypotheses. I don't even want to call them hypotheses. And you're using policy of the Israeli state to justify what you're talking about Jews. There's a distinction between those things. And that is not a defense for your comments, sir. It's not a defense. In response to claims he's racist, West said he firmly believes all men are created equal. Doesn't sound like it, buddy. Doesn't sound like it. You know, there's a political movie that I love with Will Ferrell. It is one of my favorites. It's a thrill to me. In it, Will Ferrell punches a baby, but one of the funniest parts is when they get Will Ferrell's son to admit that Will Ferrell is not a good dad and asks him, "Would you be my dad?" And he uses that as a political ad. We are almost there to the point of comedy in the way that our political campaigns are being run and the people who are in those political campaigns. This is sad. This is a sad, sad state of affairs.